Hello and welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers, where we visit with a KU J School alum. Today, I'm fortunate to be joined by Taiju Takahashi. He's in Jackson, Mississippi. He's a news director at WJTV, and he's also the news director at WHLT in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Taiju, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you. I think I saw you're just recognized for 30 years in the TV news business. Let me make sure I get the correct award. The National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Southeast Chapter's Gold and Silver Circles honor. Thanks. Congratulations on that, Taiju.
Yeah, thank you. I guess that just means survival.
So tell us a little bit about your role as a news director. I know you graduated from KU in 30 years. I mean, was being in TV management, was that always part of the plan?
The only thing I can really count on is that my plans change. I set goals for 5 years. Then after a while, I stopped trying to set those goals. But originally, I don't know if you know this or not, but when I was at KU, I was a pre-med. And then I took a hard turn left or right, however you want to phrase it. I was always intrigued by the creative side. And yeah, you could be creative in medicine and things like that, but there just seemed to be something that was really missing, something that I could call my own. I come from a doctor's background. My father's a doctor, my older sister's a doctor, so there was an expectation that I would become one as well. And after a year of taking psychology, philosophy, I had no interest in becoming a psychiatrist like they are. So then came the question, well, what do I do? And then I took the hard turn and enrolled in J school. And initially I wanted to be a talk show host. Never became a talk show host. I figured I'd do a reporter role for 5 years, maybe become an executive producer for a little while, and then dovetail off into maybe a network correspondent was in my future or something like that. And that never happened either. I became intrigued by being about being a news director, I want to say during my first job in Topeka. I've always been somewhat of a control freak, and reason I went from being a reporter to a producer is you went from controlling 90 seconds a day per newscast to an entire newscast or two, depending on how much you produced. And then as a news director, you're responsible for the vision and direction of an entire department. Say I became an executive producer, just fast forwarding. My first shot at being was around 1999, 2000. I can't really remember the exact year, but it was in Atlanta. I became a nightside executive producer. And then the company called me back to Jacksonville, Florida, where I was the dayside executive producer for a year. Then I bounced up to Seattle. And then at that time I got married, and my wife, who was a reporter for a number of years, told me that one job she didn't want to see me take was being a news director. So guess what happened? My first shot at that was being news director in Lexington, Kentucky. It was a shop that needed a lot of fixing at the time. And it was a tall task for somebody with absolutely no experience of being in senior management. But I had a good mentor, and Mark Pimentel was a general manager at the time, has advised me throughout my career since then. And I spent 3.5, almost 4 years in Lexington, went to Decatur, Illinois for 6.5 years. And then I got lured back up to Portland. One thing I realized quickly about being an assistant news director is once you had a taste of being news director, it's very hard to make that adjustment back. And that was close to an area close to my parents. So as my wife and I plotted things, she said, "Why don't you apply in Jackson?" That's where her mother lives now, just outside Jackson and Vicksburg. So I applied, and lo and behold, I'm here now. I've been here for almost 3 years.
I know you've mentioned quite a few cities. Are most of those cities within the same organization? that you've been able to kind of pivot, or right?
For a
Okay.
while they were, but
Okay.
no, not really.
Okay.
KTKA was owned by Burl Breckner, a mom and pop shop at the time. WIBW, of course, was owned by the Stauffer family at the
Right.
time, and now they've changed hands a couple of times and since become gray. I spent a lot of time with Gannett, which has since spun off and become Tegna, which is an anagram of Gannett, and worked for Fox in Atlanta as well, and Fisher, which has now become Sinclair, and then Block, Media General, and now Nexstar.
Wow. So yeah, you've seen a lot of changes. I know you mentioned Mark, a
Yeah.
GM you worked with as a mentor. I mean, can you talk about the role of a mentor and how that's really shaped you throughout your career?
Well, the key factor with Mark was that he had been a news director for many years before. A lot of GMs come from the sales background. So he was not only interested, but he was very involved with the news product. For a seasoned news director, that may be a little bit difficult to swallow because everybody's got their own minds, and we're known to be a hard-headed bunch. But with him, it was very valuable to have him in there because he had been through that before. And at the time, I thought I might want to become a GM someday. That may be off in the distance, but I don't really desire that anymore. Um, uh, I've come to become comfortable, let's just say, with who I am and an understanding of what my strengths and weaknesses are. And I think I belong in the newsroom. So Mark was really instrumental in molding me and telling me, teaching me the various aspects of strategy and also what do you call budgeting. And I remember at one conversation he had with me was said, first of all, I'm known as a fairly quiet guy. He said, you need to talk more. And and in the budgeting process, he said, it dawned on me that it comes across as Greek to you. And I said, I wouldn't say that. I'm just trying to process everything. I mean, he said, you need to mark these things down, understand every line item in your budget, know what to increase and decrease, and then you'll be fine. So I took that to heart, and that helped me in my next several jobs, quite frankly. And so, a mentor takes on many different roles, and along the way, he helped open my eyes to not only what I thought I was good at, but what he thought I was good at, and also where he thought I was weak. And the thing is, he always did it in a non um, demonstrative sort of way. So it was more of a friend to friend, colleague to colleague type of discussion. And those types of allies in the business are tremendously valuable.
And speaking of the business, I think in your bio, you're talking about creative digital first. 30 years ago, we weren't really talking about digital first. I mean, what about the changes that have happened to the TV news industry in the past 30 years? I mean, you've seen a lot.
Yeah. You have to be a digital first thinker, or otherwise you're not going to survive. The thought process there is that everybody's going digital. That's where they're consuming most of their information online. That's become a blessing and a curse, so to speak, because it's also become a platform for misinformation, and we have to convince people that what we put out there is right and accurate, fair, and balanced, and people form their own opinions about that as well. So you have to figure out what types of information are going to be consumed by the people in the digital sphere, and also how long those pieces have to be, what topics they're interested in. It's really broadcast on the internet, if you think about it, and you have to learn how to integrate that into your own traditional news broadcasts as well. So the level of thinking is vastly different. We're known to break things online before, whereas during the advent of this age, people were very hesitant to break any information online first. You have to. They're already going to have the information if you don't. So not being afraid to do that, also having digital exclusives from time to time, and not being afraid to take stuff that you see off of digital and make it your own. So that's it in a nutshell.
No, yeah, I'm amazed at the pacing. Um, Also, as a news director, when you're trying to assemble a staff, I mean, what are you looking for when you're trying to build a team to succeed?
Basically, I've been asked that question a lot, and one thing that hasn't changed is I look for 3 C's: character, competence, commitment. The last C is a little bit difficult because these days everybody's looking to move on and move on quickly. So my sales pitch is, and I'm not much of a salesman, but uh, you give me a year of your time, we'll mold you into what you want to be, and then if you want to stay, that's great. If you want to move on, we'll talk. Nexstar, the great thing about the company is that we've got more stations across the country than any other broadcast group in America right now. So the thing is, after a year, we've had people move on to the Charlottes of the world. We've had people move on to a station in Nashville. Um, and the thing is, you commit to learning. You're a strong character. You want to do things the right way. Uh, I think there's no limit as to what you can or can't do.
And in terms of building a team, I mean, I know a lot of news teams now, like diversity is a big term where you want to be representative kind of your audience. I mean, is that a challenge to get, certain people at the right beats and the right positions?
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's more difficult to find people for niche reporting like state house reporting. Not
Yeah.
everybody can do that.
Right.
Not everybody can do investigative. And everybody wants to do sports. So, but by the same token, not everybody can do it very well. So, those things have to come through in the interview. First of all, there's got to be a desire, and then you have to have a certain amount of knowledge. You have to be able to show that you know what you're talking about. If if you come to the interview and I ask you several questions about heads of state here, and it's obvious you haven't done your research, you're not going to be. They're going to eat you alive, as far as the state house beat is concerned here. But yeah, it's all an inexact science. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, and that initial interview is critical in determining that. And sometimes you find a diamond in the rough within your own staff. You didn't think a certain person had it in them, but they show that they do, and then they grow and blossom. But you have to continuously keep your mind open, your eyes open, for those things to come through.
I know you mentioned state house coverage, and I think you've worked at a couple, Topeka, Atlanta, and now Jackson. Is there a certain energy working at a TV station where you have that state house coverage?
Yeah, our company and our station in particular has made a vested interest in being uber aggressive, if you will, when it comes to political coverage. Now, over the years, consultants have determined that that's not really a priority, or that shouldn't be a priority. For some markets, I would agree with them. With this particular market, you're not going to be taken seriously if you're not in the game. That does mean going after debates. That does mean going after town halls and special projects oriented things that have to do with huge political issues. The interesting thing that we've kind of, what we've been told over and over is that you could be number one in politics, but you could be a number 3 station. That's very true. But by the same token, we were aggressive in getting Governor Tate Reeves on for a number of town halls. Each one of them that we've aired in prime time has beaten the competition hands down. And they've had their regularly high-rated primetime programs in there. We still beat them. Why is that? It's because it's a topic of interest to people. And that's what we have to understand when we're going after political coverage.
And I know obviously this past 18, 19 months with the pandemic has been a challenge for everybody, especially people looking for jobs. What advice would you have, for these soon-to-be graduates from KU and other schools? I mean, as they enter the workforce, I mean, what advice do you have? How can they stay positive?
If this is something that you want, go after it. Doesn't matter where you are. Be smart about where you're going. Be smart about how you're going about it. Um, I wouldn't be dissuaded by COVID. A lot of people are. But what I'm finding is the broadcast industry is not unlike other industries that are having trouble finding recruits. COVID has scared a lot of people off. If you want to be in this industry, go where the jobs are. They're open. And, go after your dream.
Well said, Taiju. I don't know if you have anything else to add. Please let me know.
Uh,
I guess
no,
one thing I did want to ask you. I know you talked about transitioning pre-med to journalism.
Mhm.
Now, were you involved, like at KU? Weren't you part of KJHK?
I was.
Okay.
Mhm.
What was that experience like?
Very different to what I do here, certainly. Um, you know, I was one of several hosts of that. I don't know if you guys still have the Think About program. It may have evolved several times over in the last 30 or so years. I expect that it has. We didn't have a TV station back then, though we had a TV program. But as far as KJHK goes, no, it was a very rewarding experience. I mean, I became news director there, let's say my senior year. Um, it was an exciting time. I learned what it means to be aggressive and being in front of things. Had a good broadcast mentor there in Dr. Broholm. I guess he recently retired.
Yep.
But I kept in touch with him throughout the years as well. And one thing he did well was he gave us a big dose of reality. He told us what it was going to be like in the real world. And he treated us like adults, unless we behaved like children, which I'd like to think we didn't. But that paid off a lot when we went off into the real world, so to speak. We didn't expect to be paid a whole lot. One of the big mistakes people make going into the business is that they think they overstate their worth. They come in saying, okay, I need 40,000. Well, if you need 40,000, and this is your first broadcast job, you need to rethink where you are. I mean, yeah, it's attainable if you got the talent and the right eyes on your product. But if you're starting off in a smaller market, you got to expect to pay your dues. You think about it, in my first job, in full disclosure, I made $13,500 a year. I was under salary. By the time I left, I was making a cool $17,000 a year. So it climbed up slowly, but if you stick with it, I guess that's what the silver circle is all about. It's a form of survival. Okay, you made it through, and that's the reward. 25 years of service. I've made it through 32 now, or almost 32. But it does give you a lot of wisdom toward the end.
All right. Well, Taiju, again, I appreciate your time. I know you have a lot going on in Mississippi, and I don't know if you have your KU mug close by. I always like to do a little cheers to careers. So, Taiju, cheers to your career. Again, I thank you for joining us.
You're most welcome. Thank you.